Good morning. Welcome to Soul of Travel. I am so happy to be sitting down with my friend Jen today on Soul of Travel for this conversation. And I'm going to just start by giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself, and then we will dive into your book and photography and travel and healing and all of these amazing things that we get to talk about today.
Yay, all the things that I love. Hi, I'm Jennifer MacNiven. I do go by Jen with one N. And I am a personal brand and lifestyle photographer. And I am also an author of Mind, Body, Soulmate. And I have been so blessed to be able to travel previously for 5 years globally, experiencing this beautiful world, and finally settling back here in Colorado for the past, going on 3 years now. So it's 3.5 years actually. It's been an interesting journey in life, and I still love travel and still doing it. I just got back from Tulum, Mexico, just 2 days ago, and it was an honor to be able to get out and feel that aliveness again because I so missed it with the COVID lockdown. I'm super excited to be here and share and help women in any way to fully step into who they are and experience the uniqueness of travel themselves.
Thank you. I thought that it would be kind of fun to start this conversation with how we met, which was so fun. But I also just realized that we both landed in Colorado at almost the same time, which I didn't know before. So
Yeah.
that's really great. I just have been here 3 years
We
in
just keep
December.
having more things
I
align.
know. So if you're listening, you'll learn that Jen and I have been connected like all these crazy ways, and we just keep finding out more connections every time we talk. So it's fun. And how we met, I actually was joking with my friends right after we met that I was like, it was like love at first sight. I've never had that connection before. um, we were at a women's networking event, and my friend was telling us that we should connect, and we both kind of already were like hearing each other talking and knew that we needed to connect. And what I was thinking about this morning is that I really loved um, who we are, who we were in that moment, because with both of the journeys that we've been on, with like learning to understand our intuition and trust like that guidance, and to be open to receiving, and just also trusting our own value, like we were able to step into that connection and have fun with that moment. But I was thinking that 5 years ago, I would have just been like, she seems so cool, but I'm definitely not going to talk to her. And so I just was thinking that is really important. And that's really, part of your story is that journey and that process to getting to that place. And so it just was a really fun reflection to think about how these journeys that we're on, and how personal growth is so important, and the opportunities that we can miss out on if we don't allow ourselves to step into that space and really embrace who we are and love who we are.
Yeah. And I mean, that comes with a confidence, and I think so much of finding self love turns into that confidence, which is like, I mean, if we go back to high school and, kind of like the mean girl scenario, it was like insecurities didn't allow us to share ourselves fully, and as we, I think for me, travel and just getting older and embracing new cultures, I find more of a self of sense in that and more self confidence. And I think that self confidence allows me just to be who I am. And being who I am is the natural state of people being attracted to you,
Mhm.
instead of being somebody, like I used to say I was a chameleon. And I am. I can still fit into different groups, social situations and stuff. But now I show up as me and I'm not trying to blend into the masses. I'm standing in my own, self. And it's funny because my boyfriend's daughter, she always looks at me and she's just like, "You're so crazy," and she says it in like the most endearing way. And I'm like, and I love that about myself. Like I embrace that. Like I am going to embrace the fact that I'm a little crazy, and not in a nutty sense, but just in the like, I just put myself out there in scenarios that a lot of people are uncomfortable doing so.
Yeah. I love the differentiation between being a chameleon, which also I was because I was trying to disappear, versus being able to adapt to situations, which
Right.
is you like saying, I know who I am in this situation versus trying to just uh, either disappear or be meeting everyone else's needs, trying to just be amenable to what makes
Mm,
it easier for them, and just kind of be like, okay, I'm just here, but I don't want to inconvenience you in any
right.
way, so I will do whatever it is that you wish, or
Yeah.
whatever makes this
People
happen
pleaser.
easy. Yes, people pleaser. So I actually had been thinking about that because I took an Enneagram assessment, and it said that I was, you know, all of these numbers, and then my base was a 9 or something, I think. And my friend that I told, she's like, "Oh," she's like, "Do you ever find yourself like trying to fit into all these different roles?" And it's interesting that you got like I got the same score for like a whole bunch of different categories. She's like, "It's so interesting. It's like because you're that identity, you innately try to like fit into all these different places." And then I read them again and I'm like, was I trying to be those things because they sound cool or interesting, or I think I should sound that way? And then I like went back through it with that mindset, but it was just an interesting awareness to
Yeah.
have. And I also love the idea of how you were talking about being a little wild or crazy, or but like owning how fun that is and being able to say, yes, that's just who I am. I
Yeah.
was talking with my daughter, she just got like a super funky haircut and got one side really short and one side
Yeah.
is long, and she's like, I'm a little nervous that my friends are going to judge me and that they're going to say something, and she's 8.
Mhm.
And I said, yeah, they might, but that's really a reflection of how they feel about your haircut, not how you feel about it. And so you can just say, I love it. It makes me feel great. And like trying to give her a tool to know that, yes, that's likely going to happen. And here's language you can use it to express how you feel about it. And then she was so good. And she has been like a night and day different person since she did it, which has just
Yeah.
been interesting to witness in a little human in a micro moment of her life of the process of this journey.
Yeah. Well, it comes from a strong mama who's helping her embrace who she is. And that's so powerful because unfortunately, that is not how I was raised. I was raised for, like, trying to be pretty. My mom put me in beauty pageants, and, it was all about like your looks. And then if I didn't feel pretty enough, which was how I felt, then I also didn't feel like I fit in. So then I was insecure. And then my insecurities led to people believing I was a certain way versus who I really was. And it's just like this can be a vicious cycle
Mhm.
of instead of just learning from an early age, just be who you are and embrace it and stand with confidence in that, because you will attract the right people who want to be around you and your energy. Versus my energy was weak and timid and shy. And even though I was outgoing with my friends, I wasn't necessarily in those social situations where I wanted to be liked. And so I didn't want to ruffle any feathers.
Mhm.
I didn't want to stand out in any bad way. And so I didn't even know who I really was until, more recently. And I think, part of our conversation today is about the traveling aspect of it. And I think stepping out of my comfort zone, experiencing life in a whole new vision, allowed me to embrace who I am right now. And, now I just own it, and people see it, and they love it, and I mean, those who love it,
Right.
and I'm not saying everybody is going to love it, but those who do. In fact, I posted a video of my boyfriend and I dancing in the rain in Mexico, and it's just like, it's a rain dance, and somebody commented, they're like, you're my most favorite human ever, and it wasn't necessarily I'm their most favorite human ever. They love the fact that I was just embracing a moment and sharing it and having fun with it, because so few of us get to truly do that. And so
Yeah, when
I
we
appreciate
see
that, because
someone
that's
doing that.
me. That's
Yeah.
just me being me. I will dance in the rain. you know.
Right, right. Well, and that's definitely something that drew me to you as well, because there's still that piece of myself that I'm trying to work on, and you really embody that, like, fun and freedom, and I think that's what people see when they see a video like that, is they're really saying like, "Oh, I love that. I wish I had that in my life." Or maybe they do, and really they're just recognizing that in you as well. But I
Right.
have seen that I find myself attracted to people that have a quality that I'm really trying to understand in myself, and
Mhm.
like they're this mentor for me to be able to find it.
Yeah.
Um well, I wanted to start with with how travel came into your life, which really has been a part of your life your whole life, because you grew up in a military family, and you always loved photography, and it was kind of the way that you could capture the beauty of the world, and also all of the places that you'd been.
Mhm.
Um, and then as you, like, fast forward, when you left your profession and kind of started seeking self, and this is the beginning of your mind body soulmate journey, you started to travel, and as a international photographer started telling the story of the world. And I love how photography also shows innately your place in the world, because the way you take pictures and what you choose to take pictures of tells your story. But what was it like for you to be able to travel so long and literally see the world through that lens and start to shape your vision of the world? And can you talk a little bit about what that process was like for
Yeah, so my background is was physical therapy, and I worked for medical device companies, and so I actually had a 5-state territory, and I worked the whole Pacific Northwest, and so I traveled a ton as it was. I loved getting out of Seattle was my home base, and I loved getting out and experiencing different areas. And, with that travel, I earned a lot of airline miles, and those airline miles provided me some tickets to foreign countries. And I ended up inadvertently going to Bali. I was sitting with a friend, and she was the same. She was the mentor, the vitality, the life that I saw in somebody who I was seeking out. And I sat with her, for a lunch, and she basically was like, look, hearing your story, here are the things you need to get rid of the guy you're dating. You need to go and travel. You need to, she's like, you love children and embrace doing that. You have the airline miles and the time, go. And it was a Friday afternoon, and I booked a ticket for Monday to Bali, and I didn't even know where Bali was. I had heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. I had never read nor seen Eat, Pray, Love.
you?
So I wasn't in the club that already knew what was going on. I just knew that this was a place. My cousin was there at the time, and he's like, Jen, come, I'll show you around. So I booked it for a month. And that was like unbelievable for me to travel for a whole month. Like, we just aren't, programmed that way. And, I ended up going, experiencing something so profound. It ended up being 2.5 months. And then I decided, you know what? I'm done with trying to fit into the social norm. I am not excited about trying to fit myself back into a corporate world. I did not want to do the medical device sales again. And so I ended up selling everything, moving out of my house, and I moved back to Bali. And I ended up doing my yoga teacher training, which I think was one of the solidifying, places that I was allowed to really deepen my own self practice and dive into who I am. And then being surrounded by all these people who are doing the same thing, embracing who they are, healing themselves, full of life. And when you're surrounded by that, you raise up to that level. It's just, I was listening to Abraham Hicks at the time, and it was all about the vortex and being in high vibration. And I didn't know what that was until I realized, like, oh, these are people who are in a high vibration. And I want to meet them. It's like tuning in a radio station to 89.1, you're only going to hear what's on 89.1. I wanted to hear what was on 107.7. I wanted to be up there. And so I started changing my dial, tuning in to different things. And that's really where I became, more of who I was. And it wasn't necessarily embraced by those back in the States. They didn't understand what I was doing, what I was going through. And so there was some backlash in that. It's like, when are you going to work? When are you going to get a job? And I was like, I'm here. I have my camera with me. And there's so many amazing people who, are needing photos for themselves because they're quote unquote like suitcase entrepreneurs, digital nomads. And so that's how I started, embracing the brand photography side of things instead of doing weddings and portraits and what I was previously doing. And I loved the fact that I got to work with people in the most amazing places. So the travel was inadvertent. It wasn't planned. It was planned for 1 month,
Yeah.
and it ended up being 5 years.
Yeah.
So one thing just kind of led to another. And I'm a flow person, and I'm not a planner. And so I just went with that. And it freaks people out to not plan sometimes. And I'm the opposite, where I feel stifled when there's too many plans.
Yeah.
Um,
I can relate to that.
yeah, that's kind of
um,
how it got started.
I love that this kind of speaks to something that I really believe, that travel isn't really about escape, but about finding yourself, and that you kind of through your journey went from one end of the spectrum to the other. Like
Mhm.
that moment of like, I'm not happy with my life. I booked this ticket. I'm going to go and see what happens in 30 days. And so you were kind of escaping that moment, but then you reclaimed it by saying like, I'm choosing not to return to that. And then the travel became more about this process of growing and understanding who you are and what you want and how you want to connect, and like you said, raising your vibration so that you were connecting with people that really inspired you and continue to help you to grow. I think that's such a powerful piece of travel that people really overlook, because we use it as that means for escape instead of a time for reflection and connection.
Yeah. And I think, in the Western society, we go on vacation because we are so burnt out. And when but we have this hurry up and relax mentality. You book it for a week, and get there, and it's like, okay, relax now.
Mhm.
And you don't fully get to, in fact, just going to Tulum this last week, my boyfriend, it took him, a good 5 days to really feel into relaxing and get out of a work mindset.
Mhm.
And then we only had 3 days left, but that's how we are programmed to do things. Vacation is only a certain amount of time. And, we have to cram everything in there. And then you come back, and then you don't necessarily feel refreshed.
Yeah.
Um, it's like your soul longs for more. And
Mhm.
it's that soul longing for more that people don't listen to. And because it's not just the getting away, it's the, oh, there's something about being somewhere else that fills your soul. And
Mhm.
that's the thing that we tend to not listen to. We do it, we feel it, and then we come back, and then that's it. And there was something about it for me that's like, mm-mm, there's something more to this, and I need to lean into it. And I leaned and leaned and leaned, and it just kept going. Um,
Yeah, I went to Thailand. I was living in Seattle, not ironically, I'm sure,
I
at
know.
and decided to quit everything, sell everything, leave. Went to Thailand for 6 weeks with a girlfriend, and the only thing we booked was the first night there. And everybody, even on the plane down, they're like, "Oh, where are you staying?" And like, "Oh, we don't know. I mean, we know where we're staying tonight, but not after that." And they're like, "Two girls traveling alone in Thailand. Nobody knows where you're going. You don't know where you're going." They're like, "This is a recipe for disaster." And we had a moment of panic, right? That we're like, oh, maybe we were making the wrong choice. But it was so great to get there and then, have tea with someone the next day who said, "This is the island that we were just at. This is what we loved." And we're like, perfect. The next day we booked, a bus and a ferry and went to the island, and we could stay as long as we wanted. And after like a week or so, someone else told us of another place, and we're like, great, this is where we want to go. And we had our guidebook, and we kind of knew some areas that we thought we would see if nothing else came up. But it was, and looking at it now, it was really an exercise in that trust of self and being like, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what do I like, what don't I like, which I had never done before. I had
Yeah,
never just been like, is this good for me? No, I'm like checking in with everybody else. So it's good for you, and it's good for you, and it's good for you. I hate it, but let's do it. Was really how I operated before that. And so, yeah, travel just gave me that space and that understanding, and it felt so good to operate in that mode and to relax, which was, like you said, it's just so unheard of. Like
yeah,
we are just, and especially for me, I was perfectionist, people pleaser, straight A student, ready to go to college and keep checking off all of the boxes. And when you're in that mode, you never stop and you never question. You just keep moving forward, and it can be really scary to stop. So I think it's really valuable for people to see that it's okay to do that, and it's okay to question, and it's okay to say, what about me?
yeah. And there was something where I had a Facebook memory pop up the other day, and it was just basically I was going through some health issues when I was in Bali, and like digestion stuff, and I basically was just sitting and doing a whole lot of nothing, and I felt so much guilt doing nothing. Like there was shame and guilt around doing nothing. And now I embrace it and I call it the art of doing nothing. So there's a beauty in it. There's a
Mhm.
beauty in being quiet and listening and tuning in and just allowing yourself to be. And I think one of the biggest things for me when I went to Bali was that when I got there, it felt like a big warm grandma hug, and it was just like, all the feminine energy there is profound. And we are in this, the States is just a very masculine, go, do, be, achieve type of energy. And there, I mean, they sit around, they hang on each other. Like the men are, they have a little bit more of a feminine energy about them where they bond with one another. They're not like, oh my God, you're a dude and I can't be near you. They're like totally hugging each other on motorbikes, and it's just like there's a different softness to that just allows your shoulders to relax,
Mhm.
allows you just to breathe in deeper and not be so rigid and structured and, uptight about everything. And so I felt guilt about learning that skill,
Mhm.
you know. Now
Yeah.
I don't, but at the time I was so unfamiliar with it.
Mhm.
And it's just something that I feel that so many of us need, and would value more in our life is just to be
Mhm.
a little bit more.
Yeah, it is definitely something you have to practice. And I love that you call it, the art of doing nothing, because then it makes you think like you do have to practice it like a yoga
Mhm.
practice. And I also agree with that energy of Bali and being able to recognize it when I landed there. Well, one, I was told, get ready, you're going to be standing in customs for like 2 hours to
Yeah,
get into the country. And our flight had been already delayed in Australia for like 5 hours. And I was so tired. I had just been sitting in the airport waiting. And um, I landed and there was no one in the airport. And I walked right up, got my suitcase, me and the few people on our flight, like walked through customs, walked out, and they said, might be hard to find us, but we'll have a sign, and not don't pay attention to all the people inside the terminal, go outside the terminal. And I was still inside the terminal and there's no one. And I knew what they're talking about because I've had that experience
yeah,
in other countries.
yeah.
And I'm like, what's wrong? And then I walk out and there's the one man holding my
Yeah.
name and like three other people. And he's like, I don't know what star you came on, but this is amazing. And I also had that gift through the entire trip. I had someone, we were heading to go to do a water ritual, and he's like, okay, this place is really busy, we
The
need to get
chicken
here
pool.
really, yeah, we need to get here
I
really
know that one.
early, um all of this stuff. And then we
Yeah,
pull in and he was like, what, we have rock star parking, no one is here,
yeah,
literally no one was
yeah.
there. And the woman and I that went, we like got into the water by ourselves. It was so crazy. But that combined with like that softness that you're talking about, like it just felt so good. And I think when I travel, I always say I feel really at home. And
Mhm.
it's
Me
especially
too.
in those cultures where we get to like embrace that feminine energy and stop being so rigid, and to relax and to reconnect. And yeah, Bali offered that in spades for sure.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about the energy of a destination, I find myself kind of always being drawn to indigenous cultures,
Mhm.
and really connecting either with artisans or healers, because I feel like they are preserving the culture in their practices, and it really gives us a great understanding of where we are and who the people are. And I know a part of your mind body soulmate journey really included non traditional healing, both in the US and when you were traveling, and that they were really integral to your healing process. And I know that's something that not a lot of people have had the pleasure or the benefit of experiencing. And I was just wondering if you would share a little bit about what those practices meant in your journey and how they really tied you to the destinations and like allowed you to connect to where you were.
Yeah. Yeah, I was one of those people that I knew nothing about healing. All I knew was talk therapy. And I knew that that's not what was helping me. And when I had heard about some of these medicinal plants that I ended up finding, I knew nothing about them, and I actually didn't even research them. There was just something about it that when somebody spoke about it, they told me what the healing properties that were available to me. I my soul leaned into it. It was like, yes, scary as shit, but something that my body was like, this is what you need. And so I ended up finding Peruvian or Amazonian medicine called ayahuasca. I've also worked with Cambo, which is a frog medicine. I have worked with Wachuma and Vilka and Bobinsana and and all of these really truly amazing plants. And each of them have their own properties for healing. And I had never done drugs. I was never one to experiment. But in a lot of people, they were like, why do you need to do drugs to heal? And they're not drugs, they're actually medicine. And they do so by healing. Now, do they elicit certain like hallucinogenic type of responses? Many of them, yes. But they do so while bringing in spirit. bringing in your other um, worldly sense of who you are, connecting you to source. And that is where the healing begins. And so I was in a retreat in Peru for 2 weeks, working with the Amazonian shamans doing ayahuasca, which to me, they call it the grandmother or the mother plant, but it's all of like the internal knowing, karma, family, the generational, stuff that is passed down. And it's kind of like your inside coming out, like all of the inside knowledge coming out. So profound, scary, beautiful, enlightening, healing. And I could do a whole talk just about plant medicine work. And then the other one that was kind of the major one was Wachuma or San Pedro. It's a cactus plant. And that's like all of the outside worldly knowledge coming in. So one is done in the nighttime where it's kind of a soul self journey. And the shamans are playing music and they're kind of helping elicit the medicine to stimulate a response within you. Now, it only happens if you're ready. I
Mm.
mean, there was a gentleman that was there for all 4 nights that we sat in ceremony, and nothing ever happened for him. Now, for me, it was profound. I had 8 hours of a ceremony. Um, so there's a lot of work going on in that time frame. What was so amazing for me was that we got to work with the locals. We got to see how the plant naturally grew in the Amazon, how they found it, how it came to be. It's been used as a practice for thousands of years. Um, it's not necessarily legal in the US. There are some think it's called this, I'm going to butcher it, but there is a church that practices with the medicine, but it is of the culture. And we got to find the plants. We got to make it ourselves. We got to beat the vine and bless it. So it was a very ceremonious act, something that we are so unfamiliar with here in the US.
Mhm.
And so I think the travel for me wasn't just so much that I was doing healing work, is that I was literally connecting with the land, connecting with the people, connecting with culture and history. There was so much history in this, and just being privileged to have that opportunity was something that was so unbelievably profound for me. And I came back a different person. Again, people didn't understand it, people judged it. And then once I started talking about it, it's like all of a sudden it's the most popular thing out there right now. I mean, now it's a popular word. Now I hear about it all the time. And I know so many people who have done it or want to do it, or something of the practice. I've also done medicinal mushrooms, and some other type of medicinal practices that allowed me to deal with the trauma. I had PTSD, I had anxiety, I had some depression, and all of those things were just totally weighing me down to where I didn't know what self love even was because I was dealing with all this other stuff. And then because I was able to unravel that, it allowed me to live in that new vibration and to project that out to the world so that in turn I was finding other people who were aligned with me, like so. And my current boyfriend, I mean, he was on that high level vibration too, and he's like, oh, I see this in you, I see this magic in who you are. He calls me this luscious garden of beauty, where he's like, you just see everything in the world that's beautiful and you point it out. And it's because I needed new eyes. I needed those new eyes to see. And in doing all of that healing work, it allowed me that opportunity to do so.
Yeah. as you were speaking, I just was thinking about this transition from being a person who was constantly hiding to a person who constantly wants to be truly seen. And
Mhm.
like, what a huge journey that is. And I also recognize it. And um, it's so interesting to move through that process, and then you have that moment in the middle where you're like dealing with maybe a little bit of shame about wanting to be seen because you've spent so much time hiding and you've been conditioned to think that the people who want to be seen are needy or demanding or are, not, they're not showing their truest self. They're just projecting something that people are attracted to, especially maybe in popular culture and things like that. And so I just love that. Like, that's a huge arc to go through, and then to meet someone, which was kind of the thread of your book, was this idea of healing your mind, reconnecting to your body, and really looking for a person that would see that in you. But then
Mhm.
through the journey, really what happened is that you fell in love with yourself and became
Right.
open to meeting that person. So I just think that is such an incredible shift. And so I love seeing that. And for anybody listening, thinking about, like, if you're on that cusp of feeling like I want more connection, I want to be seen as who I really am, to just like dare to sit with the discomfort and go for it, because the other side is amazing. It's hard, but like the best ever.
Yeah. And in my book at the end of each chapter there are those questions to help people self-reflect. My story is not going to be anybody else's story. They
Mhm.
might see aspects of themselves, and that's the whole point, is to be like, this happened to me, these were my situations, but you might have had something different, but you can resonate. You can feel that same energy about it. And then there's self-reflection questions at the end so that it kind of, gets your whole system riled up so that you're feeling like, wow, okay, yeah, I do need to, um, step out of my comfort zone a little bit more so that I can see what is available to me, so that I can embrace um, who I really am without the expectations of others. And granted, I was in a place where I wasn't married and I didn't have kids. And so that also was a reason that I was able to go freely as I did.
Mhm.
So I recognize that that's not going to be other people's situations, but there are things that you can do just even within your day to day.
Mhm.
Um, Stepping outside the comfort zone, trying something new. And I've listed a ton of those things in my book, um, that I didn't even know about. It's like you don't know what you don't know until somebody tells you or shows you. And so these are my ways of like helping people be like, hey, do you know about this or this happens? And,
Yeah.
just to help people kind of stretch themselves.
Mhm. And even if you do know, you may have forgotten. And I
Mhm.
remember working with someone that was we were talking about, what does make you happy? What do you find pleasure in? And she's like, write a list. And my like first response was, well, that's ridiculous. Of course I know. And then I started to write the list. I was like, hmm,
You're
I
not doing any of those
have
things.
no idea. Or yes, then I'm writing the things down and I'm like, nope, haven't done that in like 5 years. Nope, haven't done that in 10 years. Nope, I don't ever do that anymore. And yeah, so I love the process of reflecting. And really I think that's where a lot of people begin this healing journey, is just starting to write down something as simple as a list of things that bring them happiness,
Yeah.
and then checking to see, am I living a life that gives me access to any of these things?
Right.
And it doesn't mean you have to sell everything and move to Bali, but it does mean, like, if you love yoga and you're not practicing yoga, how can you do that? Can you, take an online class? Can you join a studio? Can you,
Mhm.
where can you bring that into your life, and then notice what shift happens because you put that practice into place? And So I think that when people hear about healing, one, if you're just becoming aware for the first time, it's really scary, it's intimidating, it's confusing. But I would love for people to just think that it's accessible to them wherever they are, and it can be as a simple start. And then, kind of like we were saying before, like you'll start attracting what you need next. And similar to the medicinal ceremony, if you're not ready, it's not going to work. I've done certain things, certain exercises a million times. And then, like the 10th time, I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, why didn't I get it before? It's
Yeah.
so clear now. um, well,
And it
I
can
know.
be as simple as having a conversation with somebody who you admire, who is in that space. And
Mhm.
that was the catalyst for me. I didn't need permission for somebody to tell me to go travel, but there was something in that permission being given, and I was ready, clearly, because I said yes.
Mhm.
And maybe that's all you need to get that ball rolling, is to have that conversation with somebody who you do admire. Reach out to them and ask to have a coffee or a virtual date or whatever, and just have those conversations, because people are so willing to be open and share and help promote that, shift in life.
Yeah, I think especially if you're reaching out to someone who you feel like is further on that journey than you, I
Mm.
can almost guarantee that they want you there. Like
Yeah.
you started feeling that and experiencing that, you really do want everyone to have that same feeling because it's impactful and
Yeah.
powerful. Um, I know for you, when you were traveling, you started photographing some women's retreats, and that was another kind of catalyst for awareness for you.
Yeah.
Um, can you talk a little bit about what that where that landed in your journey and what awarenesses that created for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the retreats I was invited on because, one, I was the photographer, so I was capturing all of those intimate, kind of transformational moments, and then also teaching yoga. So, really helping people tune into their body. So, I teach a yoga called Myofascial Yin Yoga, which is using tennis balls or lacrosse balls to really deepen the yin part of yoga and tune into yourself. So there's nothing like shoving a ball in your hip and laying there for 3 minutes with this intense sensation to get you to really be present,
Hmm.
to like really focus inwards. And so a lot of the retreats I was doing that, I was helping teach that practice of tuning in. And in my photography, it's like I see the details. Like that is my forte. I love all the nuances, the details, the emotion, the moments. And in doing that, it was so profound for me to witness the connection between women, to the feminine, the honoring one another. Like I had never had people honor who I was as a woman, growing up. They were your friends, but they
Hmm.
weren't like blessing you and saying sweet, amazing, beautiful things, and seeing you for who you are, but also that you get to reflect that back to others.
Hmm.
Um, there's so much shifting that happens. And, I went on a retreat to Morocco, and one of the things that we had to do was name something that you wanted to see throughout the day that was going to give you a sign. And mine was an actual word. Like we're in Morocco, the words there are going to be more or less in Moroccan, but other people would choose like a seashell or a heart shape or whatever. And you go throughout the day and your awareness shifts, like you're tuning into things that are different. And the word that I found was Ben Youssef, and it was above a school. So it was BNYOUSSEF or something like that. And to me, it said, be yourself. It wasn't literal. It was just seeing things in a different way. And so on those retreats, there's just so many little nuances and connecting and gathering and sharing. Sharing is huge.
Hmm.
Listening to other people's stories and transformations. And, I was just really privileged to be able to capture that, be a part of it, and also share what I had to offer.
Mhm.
So it's kind of this, like I got so much out of it and I offered so much as well,
Yeah.
which was so powerful. And so I want to continue doing that once the world kind of opens back up into that retreat space, um, because I love helping people find those moments as well.
Yeah. And for anyone listening, when the world does open up,
We're
Jen
going
and
to
I will
Peru.
hopefully be headed to Peru. Yeah, we were supposed to be there last June, um I kind of love that. I don't love that we didn't go, but I kind of love that we didn't because our relationship has grown since then and our connection, and we started off in the place of, oh, it'd be great if you could do photography and teach yoga, right? Um and now I just think that we will have so much to offer whoever joins us on that journey as kind of the team that we have become in this process. And so I'm really excited for that. So if you're listening, put it on your list that hopefully, not this June probably, but next June we'll be leading a sojourn there. And you were mentioning that you really focus on the details, and I know that you have a unique style of brand photography that really captures the essence of the person and then what they bring to their brand and their business because of who they are. I remember seeing kind of behind the scene photos of a woman, I think, who was a painter. And
Mhm.
there was a picture of her just like covered in paint. And I was like, that's the most amazing brand photography because I get it and I connect to her so much through that image versus seeing a picture of, her and maybe paintbrushes or something. Like there was just a different spin on it. And
Mhm.
then I know you've taken that process and kind of amplified it. And we've talked about being seen a lot in this conversation, but you've taken like that moment of being seen to another level with your raw photography sessions that you're doing. And I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about what that experience is for the women who are being photographed, and then how that really becomes a part of their inner journey, and it's like
Yeah.
bringing all of these pieces of yourself together into your brand and this experience.
Yeah. So the raw photos stands for real, authentic women, but it's also just to show your raw self. Like, who are you? Um, Women want to be seen. They want to be noticed for who they are, but they're scared. They're scared to step in front of a camera. They're scared to value themselves. I think that's the most profound thing is when women, put down some money to do something that is going to be life changing, scares them a little. They don't feel worthy enough of it. And I love bringing women to that space of worthiness and seeing themselves for who they are. And so the photography isn't about the photos. It's about the experience. From the minute that they fill out a questionnaire to the phone call to putting down a deposit and saying, "Yes, I'm going to do this," every single little moment is an inner shift. There's something going on inside their body and their brain, planning out the clothing, knowing that they're going to have hair and makeup done, looking at photos that they might want to look like for themselves. It all shifts them internally. And so getting to the day of the photo shoot, normally people are nervous. I did my own personal one recently and I felt the nerves myself. But getting there and just, I think what I like people to know is that they're interacting with me. My camera is just a tool, but like I'm playful, I'm fun, like we like to have music and, if you want a cocktail or some coffee or whatever it is, just to kind of bring you into the space of just feeling who you are and just embracing all the aspects. And so a good portion of it ends up being somewhat boudoir. But another portion of it is just wearing something fun and sassy or playful. And when they get the reveal of these images, I had a lady, but at the end of it, she's like, "I had so much fun and this was really amazing." She's like, "But I want you to know that I'm super critical of my photos and I probably won't like any of them. Has nothing to do with you, but I won't like any of them." And she walked in and saw her photos in tears, you know? And so it was just like, she's like, okay, I get it. Like, you actually see people for who they are. And she's like, I am beautiful. And those are amazing. And I remember her jumping up at one picture and just going, holy shit, that's gorgeous, you know? And she's like, you made me look so pretty. And I'm like, I didn't made you anything. You did it. I was just there holding a camera and capturing who you are. You
Mhm,
know, like I can't make people look a certain way, you know? Yes, I know how to angle and pose in those things, but it's still you.
mhm,
And so I just want people to embrace that, but also to take away those images for the rest of their life to reflect on that beauty, not only on the outside, but within. Um, and so that's super powerful for me, and the testimonies that come from that are like pages of, you know, the written word, and just them expressing, you know, their down and out story is typically how a lot of them are, to just feeling worthy enough to step into something that is so powerful for them. And so I really love that, and my new thing that I'm going to be doing that, you know, will happen more or less next year, but is taking those sessions globally and having the full experience, saying, "Hey, I'm going to Paris for a weekend, and here's your chance to do some amazing photo shoot for yourself in Paris. Who wants to join? We'll have, you know, like 3 or 4 spots." And because I want people to not only feel the excitement of the travel, but the excitement of who they really are in
mhm.
that space. Um, so I'm excited to bring that out in the near future, when it feels comfortable for people to do so. But I just want women to love themselves in all their glory and all their squishy, you know, wrinkles and stretch marks and cellulite and, you know, the non-perfect shape. I want them just to own it and love it and embrace it.
Mhm. That's so good. I love so much about how you talked about people really understanding their worth and that process. And I was thinking that it's so similar to people not wanting to book a Lotus Sojourn, that they don't want to invest the time and the money and commit to themselves. And are not sure what they're going to get out of it. And is it worth it? And like, much like you, I feel like the marketing thing is like, just say yes. Like, it's going to be so good for you. I promise.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to say yes. Like, that's the hardest thing for us as women to do, is to say yes to something like that for ourselves. And I can relate to what that journey through photography and your inner journey would be like as well. And so I love that is mirrored. Like, we both just want women to know their value and their worth,
Mhm.
and to be authentic and true to themselves. And you do it through photography and I do it through travel. And but it's all about that inner journey and using this other tool to get there. um,
Yeah, I always say, like, parents have no problem dropping a couple grand on their kids' soccer team, you know? Like, that's like a no-brainer for them. "Oh, it's, you know, 2 grand for you to do soccer for the spring. Okay, here it is." But for them to do something like that for themselves seems just, like, off the charts, and it's like, why not? You are so worth it. You are so worth being investing in yourself. It's not just a photo shoot. This is a full inner transformation of how you see yourself, but also sharing that. So most of the women that I've done these photo sessions with have daughters, and so for them to step into who they are and share that with their daughters, like, just think of how that's going to impact them as well. It's
mhm,
not just a selfish thing at
mhm,
all. And it's not for somebody. It's not like for your boyfriend or for your husband or your girlfriend or whatever. It is for you.
mhm.
And that's what's so powerful, is just doing something for yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, for as we start to wrap up the conversation, for people that are interested in learning more about participating in those sessions or getting on the wait list for your, I don't know, raw travel
I
experiences,
know,
I'll
right?
name it right now. How can they find you and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, it's easy. JenniferMacNiven.com is my website. There's contact info in there. I am easily accessible on Facebook, so you can find me there at Jennifer MacNiven as well. And yeah, so I'm all over the social media, so you can find me there.
Excellent.
But yeah, and I'll be I'll be sharing more about those travels and branding sessions as well if you're just wanting to be visible online for your business. And then of course family photos are always fun too. But I'm really passionate about the branding and the raw sessions. So
Yeah, and your book is available on Amazon, right?
on Amazon Kindle, so it's not in paperback. I say yet. It'll be 2 years coming up in a couple weeks that it's been available, but I just haven't got myself around to paperback yet. So one of these days, but yeah, on Kindle it's available.
Excellent. And to close, we're going to just play with a few rapid fire questions that are really focused on who you are as a traveler and might inspire people to, I don't know, learn something new. So, what is your favorite book or movie that offers you a travel escape or inspires you to adventure?
Mine.
I knew you were going to say it. I was going to say it, and you can't say yours.
um, as cheesy as it sounds, Eat, Pray, Love was a good one after the fact, like um but yeah, I think that was a good one just for people to step out of their normal thought process to get to go out and experience things.
I've actually had an interesting journey with that book and then movie because I read it so long ago and I remember reading it thinking, never, right?
Mhm.
And then I watched the movie and I read and I was like, please. And then I just watched it again literally last weekend
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, I want more. Like I've gone through this whole like
yeah,
journey within that movie.
yeah.
What is always in your suitcase?
Oh, flip flops. My camera. Actually, it's not. My iPhone is mainly with me. So, um, but I don't have anything too special that I take. A sarong. I'll do that. My sarong. It travels with me everywhere.
Yeah, that is really versatile actually because it can keep you
Mhm.
warm on the plane, keep
Yep.
bugs off, keep
Yep.
sun off. What is your favorite destination?
Oh, I mean, as much as Bali is, my soul is longing to return to New Zealand, but also Peru.
Mm. Where do you still long to visit?
Africa. I haven't been to, I mean, I've been to Morocco, but I really want to go to South Africa and safari.
What do you eat that immediately connects you to a place that you've been?
Oh, fruits like rambutan or durian or mangosteen. I love tropical exotic fruits.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are so luxurious and it's so fun
Uh,
to walk through the market and just see them there like they're normal, which
yeah,
is not normal for us,
right.
but it is.
Yep.
Who was the person that inspired or encouraged you to set out and explore the world?
Trina. Trina was the girl that gave me the permission to do so.
Yeah. And if you could take an adventure with one person, fictional or real, past or alive, who would it be?
Ooh,
Oh, hun.
my grandma.
Oh,
I hadn't thought about that,
mm,
but I would love to experience that with her. And she's since passed, but I
yeah,
think it'd be cool. Really, really cool.
I echo that. My
All right.
grandma is with me too.
That
Yep.
just got me. So
Thank you. Thank you
yeah.
for allowing that to be shared with us. When I went to Guatemala, the spirit of my grandmother took that trip
Oh
with
yeah, she's with
me.
me in
So
all of the trips.
but
Like so
I would
fun.
love to do it with her,
Yeah.
especially where I am now, because I think she was waiting for me to become this version of myself, and I'm
Yeah.
sad that she missed it. So,
Yep. Likewise.
Well,
You're
thank you.
crying
I
here.
know, of course.
I'm
Are
so
you kidding?
surprised we get through a whole interview without tears.
We
It's
almost
not
did. We
happening.
almost did. Yeah, I would have been surprised. Well, thank you so much
Mm.
for sharing your journey. And I know so many people are going to be inspired. And I hope we'll take action in even the smallest of ways to
Yeah.
step onto this path. And I can't wait until we are traveling together and sharing this with other women. So
Me
thank you
too.
so much for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.